All right, ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Today we're tackling Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover, and I know a lot of you've been asking for this one, so let's get right into it. Ramsey doesn't hold back, you know. He throws some pretty intense stats at you right away.
Oh, yeah,
Like
definitely.
right off the bat, he says 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, which, I mean, is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It's a huge number.
It is, but then he hits you with this idea that by changing how you're handling your debt, the average person could become a multimillionaire through investing.
It's a bold statement.
It is.
But I think it's meant to be kind of a wake-up call.
Right.
Like, he's trying to get people to see that their financial situation isn't just about luck or circumstance. It's about the choices they're making.
Oh, totally.
It's about mindset.
Yeah, and he
Right.
goes after some what he calls like these money myths
Yeah, he does
that he thinks are holding people back.
these common beliefs that, might seem harmless on the surface, but he argues they're actually really dangerous.
Like,
Well, things like debt is a tool, or leasing a car is sophisticated.
right.
You need a credit card to build credit.
I mean, those are pretty common things you hear.
They are, and that's exactly his point.
Right.
He's saying that we've been conditioned to think this way, and it's keeping us trapped in a cycle of debt and financial dependence.
So is he saying all debt is bad?
He's definitely very cautious about debt, particularly consumer debt.
Okay.
He sees it as a major obstacle to financial freedom,
Okay.
and he uses some really strong language to drive this point home.
Right, like that whole thing about needing gazelle intensity to outrun those financial predators. I mean, every time I read that, I just picture myself sprinting across the savannah away from a cheetah or something.
That's the kind of image he's going for.
Right.
It's about urgency.
Yes.
It's about breaking free from those bad habits that are holding us back.
Yeah, but it also feels like it's about taking responsibility for our financial situation, which honestly can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
It's not always easy to face those hard truths about our finances.
Especially if we've been kind of, I don't know, in denial about them.
Exactly, and Ramsey talks a lot about that, the concept of denial.
Right.
How many of us are kind of, burying our heads in the sand when it comes to our money?
Like maybe we tell ourselves we're doing okay, but then one unexpected expense throws everything off.
He uses the example of Sarah in the book, who thought she was in the clear until a sudden job layoff revealed just how precarious her situation actually was.
Right, a real wake-up call.
Exactly.
So let's say we've faced those financial demons, we're ready to get serious. This is where his famous 7 baby steps come in, right?
Yeah, those are his step-by-step roadmap to financial freedom.
Okay, so walk us through them, starting with baby step 1.
So baby step 1 is all about saving $1,000 as a starter emergency fund.
It seems, I don't know, kind of basic.
It might seem simple, but it's actually a really important first step.
Okay.
It's about breaking that cycle of living paycheck to paycheck
Right.
and establishing that sense of control over your money.
Okay, so it's kind of like a psychological win as much as anything else.
Exactly.
Right, baby step 2.
Baby step 2 is where things start to get intense.
Okay, here we go.
This is all about attacking your debt, using what he calls the debt snowball method.
The debt snowball.
Yeah.
So remind us how that works.
So you list all your debts, from smallest to largest, regardless of interest rate.
Okay.
And then you focus all your energy on paying off that smallest debt first,
Right.
while making minimum payments on everything else.
Right.
Once that smallest debt is gone, you roll that payment amount over to the next smallest debt,
Okay.
and so on, building momentum as you go.
So it's like that snowball effect, right? Each debt you conquer fuels the snowball, making it bigger and more powerful.
That's exactly the idea.
Interesting.
He argues that this method is really effective because it gives you those quick wins early on,
Right.
which helps to stay motivated and build that momentum we were talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But, it's worth noting that some financial experts disagree with this approach.
Really? Why?
Well, they argue that focusing on the smallest debt, regardless of interest rate, might not always be the most financially efficient way to go,
Oh, I see.
especially if you have some debts with really high interest rates.
So while the psychological boost of knocking out those smaller debts might be powerful, there could be situations where a different debt payoff strategy might make more sense.
Exactly.
Good, that's good to know.
It's always about finding what works best for your individual situation.
Okay, so we've tackled those first 2 baby steps. What's next?
Well, baby step 3 is all about building a full emergency fund.
Okay, so this is like the upgraded emergency fund.
Exactly.
Not just for those little unexpected expenses, but for those major life storms that could really knock you off course.
Right. The job loss, major medical expenses, the big stuff.
Okay.
He recommends having 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is, but he argues that this gives you a real sense of security and allows you to make more calculated financial decisions.
Okay, so it's less about scrambling to stay afloat and more about having that breathing room to strategize and make those big moves towards your goals.
Exactly.
That's the essence.
And once you have that solid foundation, you're ready for baby step 4, which is all about investing for retirement.
Ah, so this is where we start building wealth.
Right. We're not just talking about surviving anymore.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about thriving.
I like that.
He recommends investing 15% of your gross income into retirement accounts.
Wow, 15%.
And this is where he really emphasizes the power of compound interest and long-term growth.
So even if we can't drop huge sums of cash into investments right now, the idea is that consistent contributions over time can really snowball into something substantial.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
He uses those relatable examples in the book, like Joe and Susie Average, to show how even average earners can build significant wealth through disciplined long-term investing.
Okay, so we've got those first 4 baby steps down. Emergency fund, tackling debt, building up that bigger emergency fund, and then diving into retirement investing. So what's next? Where do we go from here?
Well, that's where we start getting into some of the more, I guess you could say, nuanced, maybe even controversial aspects of Ramsey's approach.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
Yeah, and we'll dive into all of that right after this quick break.
All right, we're back and ready to tackle the next few baby steps.
Yeah, things start to get a little more personal now.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Baby step 5, saving for your kids' college. This one feels especially tricky,
Oh, definitely.
with all the talk about student debt and everything.
It's a big one. And Ramsey's take on this can be, well, let's just say it sparks a lot of debate.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, he's pretty outspoken about his beliefs on this.
So, lay it on us. What does he say?
Well, he challenges this assumption that a college degree automatically equals success.
Hmm.
And he even goes as far as to say that taking on student loan debt is never a good idea.
Wow, that's pretty strong. So is he saying, skip college altogether?
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah.
He's more about exploring those cost-effective options,
Okay.
like community college, trade schools.
Right.
Or even having kids work part-time to contribute.
He's really big on that personal responsibility thing, huh?
Yeah, even at a young age.
But I can see how that could be tough for some families,
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if those affordable options aren't available, or if they see a 4-year degree as the only path to a good career.
It's a complex issue for sure.
It is. Okay, so let's say we've navigated the college situation. We're debt-free, retirement savings are on track. Baby step 6, this is where we pay off the mortgage early, right?
That's the one.
I mean, that's got to feel incredible.
It's a huge milestone.
It is.
Ramsey argues that owning your home outright gives you this level of security and peace of mind.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That's just unmatched.
Okay, but how do you even make that happen?
Well, he suggests some different strategies, like making bi-weekly payments instead of monthly.
Oh, okay.
Throwing any extra cash you have at the principal.
Right.
Even refinancing to a shorter-term mortgage, if you can.
So it's all about accelerating that payoff, even if it means maybe tightening the belt in other areas.
It does require some discipline, yeah.
And some sacrifice, probably.
And honestly, it might not be the right approach for everyone.
Right, especially if you're already stretched thin.
Some financial experts argue that it might actually be more beneficial to invest that extra money you'd be putting towards the mortgage,
Oh, interesting.
if you could potentially get higher returns in the market.
So again, it comes back to that individual situation and priorities.
Exactly.
All right, so we've climbed that mountain, we're debt-free, house is paid off, retirement's looking good. Baby step 7, this is the fun part, right?
This is where things get exciting.
Okay.
It's all about building wealth and giving generously.
So not just about hoarding cash under the mattress.
No, not at all. It's about enjoying your money, investing it wisely, and using it to make a difference.
I like that. So how does he break that down?
Well, he encourages intentional spending.
Okay.
So, spending on things that bring you joy and align with your values.
Okay. Makes sense.
He also emphasizes continuing to invest, building on that retirement foundation.
Right. So the growth continues.
And then there's the giving aspect.
Oh, yeah. He's big on that.
It's a core part of his philosophy.
It's interesting because, you often hear people say oh, I'll give more once I'm wealthy.
Right.
But he's saying it should be part of your plan from the beginning.
Exactly. He believes that giving back is a crucial part of living a fulfilling life.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be huge sums of money
Right.
either.
Right.
It's about finding those causes you care about and contributing what you can.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've gone through all 7 baby steps, from digging out of debt to building wealth and giving back. But there's that one theme that keeps coming up, that gazelle intensity. Is this really the secret sauce to making this whole thing work?
Well, it's definitely a key principle for Ramsey.
Right.
It's about approaching your goals
Mm-hmm.
with that laser focus, that
Yeah.
determination to break free from the status quo.
Yeah, but is that sustainable?
That's a good question.
Like, I get that that initial burst of energy might be great for tackling those first few steps, but keeping that up all the time
Right.
seems like it could lead to burnout.
It definitely can.
So what's the key?
It's about finding a balance, I think.
Okay.
A pace that works for you.
Right.
Recognizing that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
And that's where his idea of the pinnacle point comes in, right?
Exactly.
That moment when your investments are generating more income than your job. That's the ultimate goal, right?
It's definitely a powerful concept.
It is.
And it shows what's possible with compound growth over time.
Right.
But it's also important to remember that reaching that point doesn't necessarily mean you have to stop working.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
more about having the choice,
Okay.
the flexibility to live life on your terms.
So it's less about escaping work altogether and more about reaching that level of financial security where you can pursue your passions and have more freedom and flexibility.
Exactly.
I like that. It feels like there's a lot more to unpack here. It's not just about the numbers, right?
It's not.
It's about, I don't know, something bigger.
It's about our relationship with money,
Yes.
our values, our aspirations for the future.
It sounds like Ramsey's really trying to get us to think differently about money, not just manage it better.
I think that's a great way to put it.
All right, so we've explored those 7 baby steps, talked about that gazelle intensity, and even pondered reaching that elusive pinnacle point. But there's one thing that really sticks out to me about the Total Money Makeover. It's how much emphasis he puts on the emotional side of money.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just a numbers game, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Ramsey really dives into those mindset shifts needed for lasting change.
Right.
He talks about overcoming denial, confronting our fears, even battling those deep-seated beliefs that might be holding us back.
It's like, I don't know, personal development meets financial advice.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it.
And I think that's what makes it so relatable. You know, it's not just about budgets and spreadsheets. It's about recognizing how our emotions and past experiences can impact how we handle money.
He uses stories of real people throughout the book
Right.
to illustrate these points.
Like, I remember the story of, what were their names?
Mark and Kari,
Mark and Kari, yes.
this couple who were drowning in debt despite having successful careers.
Yeah, it was a good reminder that financial struggles can happen to anyone.
It doesn't discriminate.
It doesn't. And what I found interesting about their story was how he framed their transformation.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about cutting back or paying off debt. It was about changing their mindset, taking ownership of their situation.
And ultimately finding joy in the process.
Yeah, that was really cool.
He highlights their commitment to learning and making adjustments and celebrating those small wins along the way.
It reinforces that this is a journey,
It is.
not a quick fix.
Exactly.
He also talks a lot about the importance of communication.
Yes, especially for couples.
Right.
That whole idea of having regular money dates
Oh, yeah, the money dates.
to align on goals and avoid those financial conflicts that can really strain a relationship.
Because let's be honest, money can be a huge source of stress in relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
So talking about it openly and honestly can really make a difference.
It's about creating that financial unity, working together as a team.
I like that.
And he extends that to families too, you know?
Okay.
Encouraging parents to involve their kids in financial conversations from a young age.
Oh, that's so important.
It is.
To build those good habits early on.
It's never too early to start teaching kids about money.
It's not.
No.
So after this deep dive into the Total Money Makeover, what are some of the key takeaways that really stand out for you?
Well, for me, it's the power of combining those practical financial strategies
Right.
with that deeper understanding of our own psychology.
So it's not enough to just know what to do.
No, you have to understand why you're doing it.
And address those underlying beliefs and behaviors that might be sabotaging your efforts.
Exactly.
Okay, so mindset is key.
It is.
But then we have to take action, right?
Absolutely.
Even if it's just small steps at first.
Any step in the right direction is a good step.
I like that. So whether it's creating a budget, tracking your expenses, or having that money conversation with your partner,
Just start somewhere.
just start. Okay. And I think it's important to remember, like you said earlier, that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. What works for one person might not work for another.
So while Ramsey's baby steps are a great framework, it's important to adapt them to your own unique situation and priorities.
Exactly.
He definitely gives you a lot to think about
He does.
in terms of your values, your goals, and ultimately what you want your relationship with money to look like.
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
What do you want your relationship with money to be?
Now that's something to ponder.
It is.
And, speaking of pondering, there's one final thought from Ramsey that I think is worth leaving our listeners with.
Oh, I like this.
He asks, what would you do if you were debt-free and had a substantial nest egg?
It's a powerful question.
It is. It really gets you thinking.
It forces you to look beyond those immediate challenges
Right.
and imagine the possibilities.
What would you pursue if money wasn't an obstacle?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
It is. So for those of you listening, take a moment and really let that question sink in.
What would your life look like if you achieved that level of financial security?
Because ultimately, that's what this journey is all about, isn't it?
It is.
It's not just about the numbers. It's about designing a life that aligns with your values, your goals, your vision for the future.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little inspiring,
We hope it's giving you some food for thought.
and some practical tools to help you navigate your own financial journey.
Remember, financial freedom is a journey.
Not a destination.
Take it one step at a time.
Stay committed to your goals and don't be afraid to ask for help along the way.
There are resources available and people who want to see you succeed.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy diving.
Okay.
So we've walked through those baby steps. We've explored those intense gazelle leaps and even pondered reaching that pinnacle point, right? But, one thing that really struck me about the Total Money Makeover
Yeah.
is just how much emphasis Ramsey puts on the psychological and emotional aspects of money. It's not just a numbers game.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
He really dives into those mindset shifts
Right.
that are needed to make lasting change.
Yeah.
He talks about overcoming denial,
Right.
confronting our fears, even battling those ingrained beliefs
Yeah.
that might be holding us back.
It's almost like I don't know, like personal development meets financial advice.
I think that's a good way to put it.
And I think that's part of what makes it so relatable.
Yeah.
It's not just about budgets and spreadsheets. It's about recognizing how our emotions and our past experiences can really impact the way we handle money.
He uses stories of real people throughout the book
Right.
to kind of illustrate these points.
Like, I remember that story of, what were their names?
Mark and Kari.
Mark and Kari, yeah.
Yeah, this couple.
Yeah.
Who were drowning in debt
Right.
despite having successful careers.
Yeah. It was a good reminder that financial struggles
Mhm.
can happen to anyone.
Doesn't matter how much you make.
It doesn't discriminate.
Well,
And what I found interesting about their story was how he framed their transformation.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about cutting back or paying off debt. It was about changing their mindset,
right.
taking ownership of their situation, and
Uh-huh.
ultimately finding joy in the process.
Yeah, finding that motivation
Yeah.
and celebrating those small wins along the way.
Yeah. It's a journey, not a quick fix.
Exactly.
He also talks a lot about the importance of communication,
Yes.
especially for couples.
Especially for couple.
That whole idea of having those regular money dates
Yes, money dates.
to align on goals and,
Yeah.
avoid those financial conflicts, that can really put a strain on a relationship.
Absolutely.
Because let's be honest, money can be a huge source of stress in relationships.
Huge.
So talking about it openly and honestly can really make a big difference.
It's about creating that financial unity,
Yeah,
working together as a team.
I like that.
And he extends that to families too, encouraging parents to involve their kids in those conversations from a young age.
Oh, that's so important
It is.
to instill those good habits early on.
Yeah, it's never too early to start teaching kids about money.
It's not. So after this deep dive into the Total Money Makeover, what are some of the key takeaways that really stand out for you?
For me, it's really the power of combining those practical financial strategies
Right.
with that deeper understanding of our own psychology.
So it's not enough to just know what to do.
No, you have to understand why you're doing it
Right.
and address those underlying beliefs and behaviors that might be sabotaging your efforts.
Right. So mindset is key.
Mindset is key.
But then we also have to, take action.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just small steps at first.
Small steps lead to big changes.
I like that. So whether it's creating a budget, tracking your expenses, or having that money conversation with your partner.
Just start somewhere.
Just start. Okay. And I think it's important to remember, like you said earlier, that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. What works for one person might not work for another.
So while Ramsey's baby steps provide a really good framework, it's important to adapt them to your own unique situation and your own priorities.
He gives you the tools.
He does.
But you have to kind of personalize them.
Yeah, he gives you a lot to think about in terms of your values, your goals, and ultimately what you want your relationship with money to look like.
What do you want that relationship to be?
Oh, that's a good question.
It is.
And, speaking of good questions, there's this one final thought from Ramsey that I think is worth leaving our listeners with.
Oh, I like this.
He asks, what would you do if you were debt-free and had a substantial nest egg?
Oh, that's a powerful question.
It is. It really gets you thinking, right?
It does.
It forces you to look beyond those immediate challenges and imagine all the possibilities. What would you pursue if money wasn't an obstacle?
What would you do?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
It is.
So for those of you listening, take a moment
Yeah.
and really let that question sink in.
Let it resonate.
What would your life look like
Mm-hmm.
if you achieved that level of financial security?
Think about it.
Because ultimately, that's what this journey is all about, right?
It is.
It's not just about the numbers. It's about designing a life that aligns with your values, your goals, your vision for the future.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Total Money Makeover.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful.
And maybe even a little bit inspiring.
We hope it's given you some food for thought.
Some things to chew on.
And some practical tools to help you navigate your own financial journey.
Because you're in control.
You are.
You have the power to make change.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy diving.